Welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report, the only show that provides you with the best insight and information to everything Franklin County sports. And now here's your host, Bobby C.
Hello and welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. Want to welcome you here today. Well, it's that time of the year, folks. It's tourney time. And we have a lot to talk about tournament basketball. We're also going to talk about our tournament hockey that's going on as well this week. It's all begun, folks. The second season of winter sports is here. Want to thank our underwriters here today, the Four Leaf Clover Restaurant in Berniston, also by Hubie's, the Tavern and Restaurant located on Avenue Way in Turners Falls, also by Lisa Albert of Albert Hearing Services, 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield, and by our friends over at Denny's Pantry on Berniston Road in Greenfield. Thank you so much to our wonderful producers here today, Philippe Simone and John Meisner. Thank you, gentlemen, for everything you do to make things happen here. It always makes it nice to know that we can be able to be here each and every week. Well, why don't we get started here today? I want to let you know that postseason play is so much fun, but getting to the end of the season, it becomes a chess match with some of these teams on whether they're going to be able to make playoffs or not. And you also wonder how some of these teams go about it. Some coaches sometimes will sit some of their starters because they want to be able to have them ready for playoffs. Other coaches think that that's not a good approach because you want to keep the kids playing as much as possible, getting ready for the playoffs, and you're willing to take that chance of the risk against injury because the kids need to be prepared and ready to go. Sometimes a couple of games off can be a non-benefit to your team and to the player. Well, I can tell you right now that the Panthers of Pioneer have had an excellent season. And they went down last week to take on Hopkins Academy, a team that they ended up beating in the Western Mass Championship last year to be able to move on to the state semis, where they ended up getting beat by Maynard High School, a very tough team. But the thing is that this team this year is really a team that was built off of only a couple of guys that were seniors who got a lot of playing time. What I mean is last year, a lot of the senior group were the main starters of the team. So there was only a couple of kids who were getting playing time out of this whole group of 9 seniors that are on this Pioneer team. So you say to yourself, 9 seniors and there wasn't a lot of guys that played? Well, that's because they had a big class of guys who played last year that were very talented, and why wouldn't they have been if they got to a state semi-championship? You know, that's really saying a lot to get to the state semis and to win a Western Mass title against a very good Hopkins Academy team. Well, guess what? Pioneer had to go into the gym of Hopkins Academy. If Hopkins Academy was able to beat Pioneer, they're in the playoffs this year. Well, guess what? Pioneer on the road picked up a 58-51 victory, and they ended up knocking them out of the playoffs. So no Hopkins Academy for the first time in the playoffs in a long time. And that's because of the great play that was done last week from this Pioneer Panther team. Of course, they were led by Garrett Cody, who always gets things done. And the Golden Hawks ended up with a record on the year of 9-11. So they are not going to be in a pursuit for another title. And what does that say about Pioneer? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. They ended up knocking off Hopkins Academy, so they got rewarded. And they ended up with a 2 seed in Division 4, a big field, by the way. Matter of fact, this is a weird year this year for high school basketball, and I'm going to tell you why. Because most of the teams that ended up making the tournament this year were subpar teams. And what I mean by that is that they were able to sneak in, but they're not very talented. So this Pioneer team ends up with a nice 2 seed, but normally the top seeds usually get a bye in the first round. Well, this year, that didn't work that way. Every single seed in Division 4 had to play a first-round game, which means that you could have a 15 seed playing against the number 1 seed, or a 16 seed playing a number 1. So it was a very different type of year for Division IV basketball this year here in Western Mass. And we'll share some of those scores from last night, and you're going to be blown away at the difference between the number 15 or 16 seeded team and the number 2 in Division IV. We'll get to that in just a moment. Another team that's solid getting it done was Greenfield High School. Greenfield High School, they have got a crew of girls who have been able to get it done this year. They did it last year. Last year, they ended up losing in the Western Mass Championship against Hampshire Regional. Well, how funny it is that with a bye that Greenfield ended up getting, they ended up with a 4 seed, okay? They ended up with a 4 seed in Division III. Why did they get a 4 seed? Because, believe it or not, out of every division, boys and girls in Western Mass, the Division III girls is the most talented pool of 4 core teams. And it's funny because every other team after the 4 are either 10-10 or under that made the tournament. So your number 1 seed in girls Division III is South Hadley. Number 2 is Wacona. Number 3 is, they will be playing against Hoosick, and number 4 is Greenfield. Those are the 4 teams. That's it. Everybody else is very weak, but it's funny because they got a first round bye, Greenfield did, and their first round game that they'll be playing at home on Friday night down at Nichols Gymnasium here in Greenfield is literally against the team that beat them in the Western Mass Championship last year, Hampshire Regional. So Hampshire Regional has to go on the road and play at Greenfield in the quarterfinals on Friday night. So you're going to see all those girls from Greenfield. They're going to be back. But it's funny because that team last year from Hampshire, their best player will not, and that's Caitlin Pakumka. She was amazing. She did some amazing things last year as a basketball player at Hampshire Regional. Unfortunately, she's not available. The big star for Hampshire Regional is a girl by the name of Lily Pond, and she is really good, okay? So she is going to be the one that's going to be the big scorer for their team. But there's a lot of weapons with this Greenfield girls team, and we'll get to that in just a moment. As we get into the tournament, we ended up having some games that were played last night, and I will tell you that it was an ugly game in the first round for the Pioneer Panthers. The Pioneer Panthers literally got out to a 25-point lead after 1 quarter last night. They end up beating a team that really shouldn't have even been on the same court as them. Final score of the game last night with all the starters for this team only playing 1 half. Final score was Pioneer 73, Smith Vocational 35. So with your starters on the bench for half the game, they still won by 38 points at home. So there's the difference between a bottom-seeded team in Division IV and the number 2 seeded team in Division IV. How about this? Your starters play a half a game, and you still win by 38 points. They led by as many as 52 points. It was 69-17 when they finally ended up going on a run, Smith Vocational, where they brought in all their subs. Pioneer did. Played some JV kids, gave them an opportunity to play. Amazing. 19 points for Hubbard. He's only a freshman. He led Pioneer in this one. They gave him some playing time because he is a kid who is part of the bright future of this Pioneer program. So he got a chance to be able to play with some of the younger players, which worked out perfect because that's the group that's going to be playing together in the future for Pioneer. But guys like Garrett Cody, half a game. You know, Troy Iman, half a game. Fox, half a game. Let all these other kids come in and play. Ryan Potter, Hubbard, those type of kids. Even little Jaden Fox, the younger brother of Zach, those guys all got the extra playing time, which was perfect because it worked out good for everybody. But think about this. You end up playing a first-round game and literally win by 38 points with, honestly, your second team. Because your first team, you were up by 52 points. That's not a fun basketball game, folks. That's not fun for Pioneer. It's not fun for Smith Voke. So to me, this is the problem between what is a top-tier team and a bottom-tier team in Division 4. Greenfield Green Wave. They played last night, too. They took on a team from Murdoch High School. Murdoch is one of those teams that likes to run. They like to gun. They like to attack. They like to steal. They just are a street ball team. You know, if you're a basketball fan and you've ever seen street ball basketball, what it is you get out on the court, you pass the ball around, you shoot deep, long threes, you attack the basket, hope that somebody fouls you, throw up some crappy shots. Well, what happened in this Greenfield game is that the defense was so good from Murdoch that Greenfield was having fits all night long. And they ended up losing by 18 points. It was a 9 seed versus an 8 seed. So Greenfield gets the honors of getting an 8 seed. The 9 seed drives all the way from Central Mass to come to play in your gym, and they put on the clinic. They put the clinic on. So what happened is that this Greenfield team got it down at one time to 6 points. Then they end up going on an 8-0 run, and all of a sudden Murdoch is back up 14, and then Greenfield comes back. They get it down to 6 for a second time. Then Murdoch just explodes, and they end up in the end winning by 18 points. You know, you really think about what happened in this one is that we don't have any teams around here that Greenfield plays that kind of basketball, the street ball game. They had guys that were incredible, but there was this one kid named L.J. Hicks, and he was just amazing. He had a night, 26 points. How about this, folks? He had 12 steals in one night. So that's a problem that Greenfield went through last night with their guards not being able to protect the ball. 12 steals from this guy. Take all those 12 steals and score baskets. How many points is that, folks? 24, right? 24 points? Let's put it this way. Out of his 12 steals, 9 of them went for layups. 18 points off of turnovers this one guy did, and the final score was an 18-point difference. So what would have happened in this game if Greenfield was able to protect the ball? This would have been a different ball game last night at Nichols Gymnasium. But I'll tell you, a kid who dominated for Greenfield last night had the best game of his career as a high school player. Mason Meadows ended up with 28 points for Greenfield, dominated down low, did an excellent job being able to not put the ball on the ground many times. But I'll tell you what, though, every time he did, he got his pocket picked. Every single time. So when your coach says catch and shoot, you catch and shoot. If you put the ball on the ground and you're 6'7", someone's going to grab the ball before you because you're 6'7". Don't put the ball on the ground. Catch and shoot. Well, he was able to do that the majority of the night last night and ends up with a season-high 28 points. Does it in front of the home crowd. He blocked a shot so it was so loud, it was unbelievable. I, doing the broadcast, could hear the block literally at half court through my phones with a crowd. He absolutely crushed this. The kid was getting ready to throw a pass, and he just like slammed the ball right back into the kid's face. So Mason Meadows ends his season this year on a very high note. Now, here's the thing. They got a lot of really good players that are coming back for the Green Wave next season. They'll lose Hunter Campbell. They'll lose Nate Hazelton. They're going to lose Cam Baird. Unfortunately, Cam didn't get a lot of playing time this year. They're also going to lose Owen Phelps, and they're going to lose Nooney Vega. That's it. Everybody else is back. They will have Sack. They will have Cody. They will have Hart. They will have Meadows. They will have all these other kids that were playing JV that'll be coming up and joining the team. So they're going to be okay. And under Coach Angelo Thomas, he sets up a system that these kids are going to have to play by. And if they don't play by the system, they're going to sit the bench. It's just that easy. He keeps it simple. Do what we say, play. Go against what our wishes are and what our game plan is, you sit. It's that simple in the game plan of Angelo Thomas. But Greenfield, turnovers were the difference in this one. They get beat by Murdoch High School. They're out of the playoffs this year with a 18-point loss, 68-50. Well, another one of our teams is the Turners Falls Thunder. They had to go up to Lee High School earlier this year. They were able to beat Lee. But you know what happened to them? They couldn't make shots last night. On the road up there in the Berkshires, a very hostile crowd. Matter of fact, it was standing room only in the gym at Lee High School last night for the Thunder. So there was a lot of noise. Matter of fact, my nephew plays for the team, and he told me on the phone last night that they couldn't even hear the coach giving the plays because the crowd was so loud at Lee High School last night. Someone said to me one day, how come the Berkshire teams are so good? And you know what my answer was to that question? It was simple. What are you going to do in the wintertime in the Berkshires? Are you going to sit home and play video games? Or are you going to play some sports, play basketball? And you know what? Kids in the Berkshires, they play hoops. They lift weights. They're big, they're strong, and they play a lot of basketball in the winter. So people say, well, geez, the sports up there are so good in the wintertime. Well, you know why? Because these kids are living in an area where there's not a lot to do in the wintertime. Unless these kids ski, there's nothing much left that they're going to be doing up there in the Berkshires. Basketball is a big deal up in the Berkshires. And the sad part is they keep to themselves. So when it comes to tournament time, a lot of these teams know nothing about these Berkshire programs. They see what their record is, but they know nothing about them. But they have to know something else too. Most of these Berkshire teams, because they don't want to come all the way down to the valley to play our teams because of the travel, they all play each other. So you're going to have a team that's a small school that's in Division 4 that's going to be playing the Division 1 teams like Taconic in Pittsfield High School. And those teams are playing against Division 1 programs all the time. So when you're a freshman and you're playing against a D1 program and you're D4 because you have a small school like Lenox High or Lee High School, they're in Division 4, they have small programs, okay? But they still got to play those big schools because they all play each other. So you're dealing with teams like Hoosick Valley and Drury and Wacona. Really good basketball. That's what you get. You also have Monument Mountain. You have Mount Greylock. They're all up in the Berkshires, and they all play each other throughout the year. So when it comes to tournament time, a lot of these kids are totally prepped and ready to play. So when they're able to play above their division throughout the year, in Division 4 teams playing these other teams, and then people say, well, how come this Berkshire team is 12-8 and they get a 2 seed? Well, it's because those 8 losses were against all the teams that were above them. But all the other teams that they played that were Division 4 in their own, they won them all. So they're 12-0 against the teams that are in their division. But their 8 losses were against teams that they played up because of the way the Berkshires do it up there. So the next time someone asks you, How come the Berkshire teams are so good? They stay to themselves. They play each other up there in the Berkshires. And these kids get a lot of experience from playing up instead of playing down. And I always tell people, you become a better basketball player when you play against better competition. Yes, sometimes it can hurt with growing pains for a program that's going through a rebuilding stage. But if you think about the bottom line of what ends up happening at the end of the year, it's a bonus because you're going up against those Division IV teams that you were able to manhandle no problem during the regular season. Those are the same teams that you get a chance to play during the tournament. So now all that extra opportunities of playing up in the Berkshires throughout the year were benefiting you during tournament play. So this is why the Berkshire teams are always tough every year when we go to the cage for the Western Mass Championship. And unfortunately, it was a tough one because the Thunder was winning in this game and they had things going their way for a while early, but in the second half, it was all the Wildcats of Lee, and they end up picking up the 68-59 9-point victory at home. So the Thunder, after a very slow start with injuries, all kinds of other things that happened during the year for them, they made an incredible run at the end of the year to be able to get to where they are today. And I give them a ton of credit. I want to say that their seniors did an awesome job this year. They really did. You know, you look at Tyler Lavin, the leader that he is. You know, they brought in my nephew, Ryan Campbell, came in and made some big impacts on defense. He's a very good ball handler as well, plays really good D, he's very fast. He was a big help to the team too. And, you know, a couple of these seniors were able to really help this team out. But these kids still have some younger players who are very talented, who are going to be able to help grow this program. You know, I was looking at Turner's Falls, and I'm like, hey, they still got Anthony Peterson that's going to be coming back. That's going to be a huge help for them. They have other players that are going to be key players on this team that are going to be able to make a difference down the road, including Chase Novak, who's a very good scorer. He's going to be an impact player. The thing is we want to keep Chase healthy, and we want to keep him doing well in the school. I think as long as he can do well in school and stay healthy, he could be one of the top scorers in all of the league. He's that good of a shooter. So they're going to need these guys next year under Coach Mullins and Coach Lamatanian, who have done an awesome job with this group of kids, especially at the end of the year when they rallied back. You know, I could tell you right now that they were in a situation where they were 6-8 getting down the stretch here. So with 6 games left, they had to win 4 out of their last 6, but they had to play some powerhouse teams. They had to play Mahar and Frontier and Hopkins Academy and Pioneer. They had tough teams they had to play. Well, this group of kids rallied, got to that 10 wins, and was able to get a nice seed. A 9 seed was pretty nice for this team because of what they did down the stretch. And some really good quality wins, too. So that was a big help for this Thunder program. Very sorry that they ended up losing like Greenfield did last night, but that goes to show you that the talent that we have of some of these other programs is really big. You know, we talked about this Murdoch team that comes out and plays more of a street ball against Greenfield, wins by 18. This team up in Lee, a hostile crowd. What else is there to do in the Berkshires in the winter? Might as well go watch a basketball game, pack a gym, make noise, root on your team. And that's what the Thunder had to deal with against the Wildcats last night up at Lee High School. You know, you talk about Frontier. They ended up with a bye. So they got some time to be able to regroup. Frontier's the team that got some love. But I'll tell you right now, very nervous for them. And people say, what do you mean you're nervous for them? Well, I'm nervous in the fact that they haven't played their basketball that they played earlier in the year here in this last part of the season here. And that's very disappointing to me. And it's disappointing to me because they have a lot of talent. That team is really good. But they have sort of not been able to gel at the right time. I always say that in tournament play, you have to gel at the right time. And this team has not done that. You look at Karsten Carey, he's had an amazing year. Him and his brother Peter, they're the two twin towers that are down low for this Frontier program. You know, Owen Morris started off the year so good, shooting from outside and really making an impact by making players have to come out and defend him, which opened up the inside game for the two Carey brothers to get easy baskets down low. Well, Owen Morris has been really cold from outside, hasn't been shooting well. Alex Sharp, Kalen Evans, some of these kids that are part of this program that have been able to do other things from the outside have not been able to come through. And that ends up causing a problem for this Frontier team. Just think, if you're able to get the guys that are outside to not shoot well, then what can you do? You can collapse down low. You can double team the two Carey brothers, make those guys have to shoot from outside. If they can't make shots and you're boxing out those two brothers and you're getting the rebounds and then you're scoring on the other end, you're going to have a chance to win. And that is exactly what happened at the end of the season with two key losses in their division, which ended up costing Frontier getting a full championship in their gym. They ended up co-championing with Greenfield. Yes, folks, Greenfield, of all teams, went in to Goodnoe Gymnasium last week, pulled off a 39-38 victory, where two key free throws from Jake Sack sealed the deal, and Greenfield walked out of Goodnoe Gymnasium as co-champions of their division. Unbelievable. And why? Because look at the score, 39-38. We know Greenfield doesn't score. Their offense has been this way all year long, but their defense is very good. Their defense was good enough to shut down the offense of a good offensive Frontier team to walk in to Goodnoe Gymnasium and walk out that same night as co-champions. That was an amazing thing that happened for this Greenfield team. So people say, wow, so you're telling me that Coach Angelo Thomas comes in, his first year as coach at Greenfield, doesn't really know the kids well, doesn't really know what to expect because of what the kids were going through under a different coach, and they still was able to walk out of here as co-champions? Yes. That's exactly what happened. And the funny thing is if you really think about this, the team that he was with for years, Hopkins Academy, they ended up not making the playoffs. So he leaves Hopkins Academy, comes to Greenfield, his alma mater, first year as coach, ends up coming up with a big run to win the games they needed to win to get in the playoffs, and they end up as co-champions with that win over Frontier. So now is where Frontier can be able to get in the driver's seat of our teams here in the area. What I mean by that is Greenfield is already out of tournament. They got beat by Murdoch, so they're out. Turners, they're out. Now, we have two teams that are left. We have Pioneer, Frontier. That's it for boys basketball. Mahar boys, they played. They got beat by Palmer, so they're out as well. So if you think about our Franklin County teams, because we add in Orange as well, so that's Mahar. Mahar is out as well. So we have two teams in boys basketball remaining. They were the two teams that were hot at the beginning of the season, and right now, Pioneer, to me, is the better of the two programs. They're in different divisions, which is perfect, because if Pioneer can play as well as they are, they hopefully can get to the cage. All they got to do is win their game that they play Friday night against a team called Bay State Academy. They're based out of the Springfield area. So Bay State Academy will travel up to the mess hall up at Pioneer and take on Pioneer on Friday night. And Frontier is now going to host Thursday night. It's a Thursday night game. And that game, by the way, will be at 6 o'clock over at Pioneer on Thursday night. Thursday night at Frontier, they will play Palmer. They're a 10 seed, okay? Bay State Academy is a 10 seed. So you got Frontier taking on Palmer, 7 o'clock down at Frontier. You have 6 o'clock Thursday night, Pioneer hosting Bay State Academy. So there are our final two teams in boys basketball, and I hope that they can both do very well. Well, the girls get started tonight as we record this show here today. The girls get started tonight. We don't have a lot of girls in it this year. We have a few, but the problem is everyone is on the road except for one team, and they're not even playing. And that's the Greenfield girls, who ended up with a bye. They will play Friday night, home, 7 o'clock, Hampshire Regional. Tonight, as we do this show, the Pioneer girls are going to travel down to Pope Francis, a 9 versus 8 seed. Let's talk about them for a minute. This Pioneer girls team, really good players with Olivia Rowe. Great center, great down low presence, great ball control with Paige Loffman. She's your guard. She scores a lot of points. She likes to go and attack the basket. She has a nice outside shot. She's a lefty. She really is an excellent basketball player. Very young, very good. All right. Then you have Steph Scoville. There's another girl who's been able to do well for them. And then there's a supporting cast of other girls who are able to do things a little differently than those other two girls do with Paige and Olivia. What I mean by them is they play good defense. So with the defense that those girls play, it helps them be able to keep their team in games. So you don't always have to be a great scorer to be a part of a team that does well. Problem is you just don't get in the paper. You know, when you pick up the sheet and go, oh, okay, let me see here. Oh, Paige Loffman, Olivia Rowe, Steph Scoville. Okay, that's great. But let's talk about the other girls. Let's talk about Autumn Flagg. Let's talk about the other girls like Abby Briggs. Let's talk about Johnson. Let's talk about Ellis. All of a sudden, we're mentioning 4 or 5 different girls. Well, guess what? They play good defense. They're able to help on the defensive end. These other girls are the scorers. When you go see a paper, you always see who the scorers are. You don't always see who the defenders are. Defense wins games, period. Why did Greenfield lose when they scored 50 against Murdoch last night? Because Murdoch played good defense. They took the defensive plays, turned it into offense. That is why they won. Why did Turners lose? They were up at one time by 9. They lost by 9. 18-point swing comes from good defense that turned into offense. Defense wins games. So remember, it's not always about the scorers on who makes a team. There's 5 kids that are out there on the court at one time. If 2 of them are scorers, the other 3, they have to do something if your team's successful. So just remember something, folks. I always believe that a team effort is what's going to get you to where you need to be. Well, this Pioneer team is taking on Pope Francis, a team they lost to earlier this year in overtime, 61-58. A very good game. And this was up at Pioneer. So now they're going to go down as a 9 seed playing against 8 seeded Pope Francis. And honestly, I really thought that they deserved to have that reversed. I feel that they should have had the 8 seed. Pope Francis should have had the 9, only because of the other teams that they were able to beat. But it didn't go that way. And it's fine because you still got to win to get to the cage. No matter where you play or who you play, you got to win to get to the cage. So Olivia Rowe and Paige Loftman and all those girls at Pioneer under Coach Meg Burrington are going to travel down to Pope Francis tonight as we record this show. It's a Tuesday night. They have a 7 o'clock tip-off, and we'll see if they can get that revenge from that overtime loss earlier this year. Why not come back and get the win at the right time where you can continue on in the playoffs? So good luck to the Lady Panthers in their game against Pope Francis. Well, hello. I'm Bobby C. Welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. We do this every week. Now we're in the tourney time. Season number 2 of the winter is here. Basketball, hockey, excitement right now as things are really heating up. You know, I always say one of my favorite times of year is March Madness. But March Madness starts a little early for me because it starts during the month of February as the kids get ready for the trip to the cage. As we know, the championship usually happens the second week in March. That's when they go down and play for championships down at the cage at UMass. But before that, they all have to be able to get there. And this is where they grind it out. Well, night 1 for the girls is tonight. Pioneer at Pope Francis. Another team that's playing tonight is the girls from the Franklin County Tech. They're on the road tonight against a very good Ware team, so they're going to have a tough task for them tonight. But Coach Knightley, him and his girls are going to make that trip down. They're going to do everything they can to try to pull off a huge upset. If they can, well, they advance in the tournament as well. Franklin County Tech girls are another good story. Lost some players, came back, had a little bit of a rough patch during the middle of the season. Near the end, they started to play well. And as they played well, they started to win. And with that, they ended up with a 12-8 record in the regular season, which gives them an opportunity to be able to play in postseason play. So good luck to the ladies tonight from the Franklin County Tech. They also have a 7 o'clock tip-off this evening, too. Another one of the girls' teams that's in, Frontier. Frontier girls, they picked up their 10th victory of the year, 10-10, got them in the playoffs. Yes, they're on the road. Yes, they got a tough team they got to play, but they're going to go out. They're going to give it everything they can. They have a game tonight as well. And I will say that that team is so young. For them to get in the playoffs this year really says a lot about their team because they are the youngest team that we have of all the teams. They have only one senior in Ariana Walker. She's the only one that is a senior for Frontier. Otherwise, it's all girls coming back. Huge for this Red Hawk program. Very bright future, very good players that are coming back. And I want to wish the best to Ariana. She has been with the team ever since she was in 9th grade. She's done a wonderful job. She handles the ball very well for them. And she's been able to be a leader for some of these other kids. And I'm going to say that this Red Hawk program should do very well in the future. Coach Sobieski has done an excellent job pitching in. Rick Recor ended up stepping down literally 3 quarters through the season. And Coach Sobieski ended up taking over. Betsy's done an awesome job with the girls over the last few weeks since she has taken over that job. And her daughter is one of the players who plays. Her other daughter plays JV, so she'll be coming up to join the team next year. So there's a lot of bright spots for this Frontier girls team. Wish them their luck in their game tonight. One more team that's local that's playing tonight is part of the Mahar, is part of our area of teams. The Mahar girls. The Mahar girls are going to take on Drury. Drury High School, very good. What can Larry Fisher, the coach of Mahar, do to try to get his girls prepared? I would have those girls be under the hoop practicing their layups. That's what I had them do all week. Because when they played Greenfield, they missed 14 layups in one game. 14. When you miss 14 layups, you just left 28 points on the table. 28. So think about this. If you lost by 20, you could have won against a good team if you made your layups. Coach Fisher, I guarantee you, he made sure those girls were underneath the basket and they were practicing their layups this week against Drury. That is exactly what they're going to need to do if they want to escape with a victory on the road up in the Berkshires. So best of luck to Mahar girls. Hope they do it. Coach Fisher does an awesome job with these girls. I like the girls on this Mahar team as well. They have a nice nucleus of girls who are very good, and they could do well. Well, the team has been talking about all year long, the Greenfield High School Green Wave. Wow, what a team. You lose 3 times this year, but you lost to all Division I schools. You're a Division III school. You played a Division I schedule for independent games. Yes, you got beat. You did not get blown out by anybody in those 3 games. No blowouts. Absolutely none in every one of those games. Greenfield High School got rewarded with a 4 seed in a very tough division. You think about it, South Hadley, look at Greenfield, look at South Hadley. Wacona High School of the Berkshires in Dalton, Greenfield High School. Look at Hoosick Valley. You look at where they are up in Adams. Look where we are here. Look at the difference. So very, very good basketball in girls Division III. I personally think that the 4 teams I mentioned all march to the cage. So Greenfield will take on one of those 4 teams. Matter of fact, they'll probably have to play South Hadley, the number 1 seed, which I personally think they can beat. I've watched these teams play. I think Hoosick and Wacona are better than South Hadley. But because of the Walker system and the way it's run, South Hadley got a little bit of the edge. And they go by the Walker system on how they pick the seedings. Doesn't always go by your record. Goes by a system they use called the Walker system. And if you typed in Walker system on your computer and you wanted to know more about how the seedings are done, you can get that answer. It comes right up with the formula of how they do it to be able to decide where the seedings are. So Greenfield should win against Hampshire, go down to the cage, play South Hadley. I think they can win that game, and I think they can get the championship Saturday to play either Wacona or Hoosick Valley for a Western Mass championship. 3 girls have been absolute amazing studs when it comes to their basketball game. You think about Sam Smith, 1,000-point scorer at GHS. Reagan Hickey, 1,000-point scorer at GHS. Katie Hazelton, the next 1,000-point scorer at Greenfield High School. All playing together at the same time. When was the last time that ever happened at Greenfield High School? None. Zilch. Never. Will it ever happen again? I don't know. But it ain't going to be in the near future. What this team has now is what they have a chance to do to get to another Western Mass championship. This is the group. Raquel Provost, amazing player, hard player. She is unbelievable. Great defense. She can shoot. She's fast. She's a bull. She knows how to knock people around. She's tough. She's built Ford tough. That's what she is. You think about Christina Reed and what she's been able to contribute to this team has been pretty special. And I'm very pleased to see the improvement of Christina Reed on this team. And I like when he has those 3 special girls with Raquel and Christina Reed starting. They do a nice job together. It's a good starting 5 that work very well together, and they pass the ball, they work it, they know how to do the inside-outside game. The game plan Coach Hickey does is pretty darn amazing, and that's why Greenfield has such success. Good coaching, kids who want to listen, kids who want to learn, and girls who know how to play together. That is GHS Green Wave basketball. Good luck to the Lady Wave. One more thing to talk about here, folks, and I can't believe our time's cruising along here, but what about the boys hockey team in Greenfield? They got a second seed in the 3A tournament. I like this group. I think this group is great. How about two kids in the 100-point club with Doug Hanoski, Brian Bauman? What about the supporting cast of Sean O'Sullivan, Jacob Bryant, and a great goaltender in Riley Drew? Good coaching, Coach Bouchard doing a nice job with a group of kids. When they got this co-op program put into one team, you literally took the Franklin County Hockey Association and was able to take all the kids that grew up playing together. Now they get to be one team to represent Franklin County. Franklin County hockey, baby, is back, and it's back for a long time. And it's because the Wave has good talent. And not only that, good feeder program through Franklin County Hockey. The Franklin County Hockey Association has been able to breed a lot of these kids, bring them up through with good coaching, good discipline, opportunity. Now they get to play together as high school athletes. And last year they proved how good they were, and this year they're the 2 seed. Number 1 seed is Amherst. Greenfield gets the number 2 seed. So Greenfield's going to have their first game that is going to be played tonight. That's right. The night we're talking here will be their first game. The Wave's going to go after it. They're going to do everything they can. They're going to play against Drury High School. Drury is 7-6-6 on the year. Of course, the Green Wave is way above that. And they're going to have to go out and play against Drury. That game will be over at the Collins Mullen Arena. That'll be a nice opportunity for the Wave to be able to hopefully pull off a win. They'll play the winner of 2 really good teams. And I think Belchertown's going to be the one that'll win. Belchertown is a team that they've been able to battle with. And, of course, another team that's in there is East Hampton as well. So there's Chicopee High that's in that division in 3A. So it should be a lot of fun. But the Wave gets it started later tonight. They take on Drury High. We hope for the victory for them. And then when we get together next week, we'll be able to talk about how many of these teams will be one step closer to championship Saturday. The thing is that I don't like is hockey is played a little bit differently in the fact that they do everything down at the Olympia, down in West Springfield. So a lot of the games are all down there. So it makes it a lot tougher for a lot of folks to have to travel all the way to West Springfield to go watch the kids play. But you know what? It's fine because it's a beautiful facility down there. It's just always nice if you can be able to have it set up that most of the early rounds are home and then the championship is only held at the Olympia, but that isn't how it worked out. They've changed the rule. So now the Wave will have to play their semifinal and final games down, if they win, at the Olympia in West Springfield. Of course, we've always had the semifinals and the finals at the cage at UMass. That's been that way for years for boys and girls basketball. It's like a perfect venue, too, to be able to hold all those fans. It's a great place. It's very intimate down at the cage, and it makes for a lot of fun down there, too. So as we put a wrap on our show here today on the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report, I am Bobby C. And there you go. I gave you a full tournament update on exactly where these teams stand. The question is, is when we get together next Tuesday, who will be in the semifinals of Western Mass to have an opportunity to get to Championship Saturday. We'll have that information for you next week here on the show. As we wind things down, I want to once again thank our underwriters here today, the Four Leaf Clover Restaurant in Berniston, also by Denny's Pantry, Berniston Road in Greenfield, by Hubie's Tavern and Restaurant, Avenue Way in Turners Falls, and by Albert Hearing Services, 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield. For Philippe Simone and John Meisner, I'm Bobby C. Remember, get out and support your local sports teams.
Thanks for watching the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report on GCTV. Catch a game and be sure to join us next time for more sports and fun.